There's only second-hand knowledge about Sarah Winchester, but a legend grew around her and grew around the creation of this house.
A house under never-ending construction, built on the orders of a grieving widow, whose mind is as chaotic as the house itself.
The hardest thing about doing a film like this is how do you make it scary?
Action, look up.
Our goal was to keep it grounded in a reality.
It's amazing sets. Amazing costume design. It's incredible that you walk on there as an actor, you know, and you're there.
This is a ghost story. It's a haunted house story, but to know that this is a real story about a real place, a real person, makes it really terrifying.
There's a lot of mythology around Sarah Winchester. Even in her lifetime, many different people had different ideas about her.
There's one photograph of her. She built this amazing house called the Winchester House, now the Winchester Mystery House, over in San Jose, California. And it's full of these strange architectural oddities.
This house was built at a time when it was just empty farmland around, and in the middle of this starts appearing this extraordinary construction, bit by bit by bit, being built by this widow who always wears black.
When we initially thought, gee, it'd be great to get a Helen Mirren type in this film, to actually go out to her and she said yes was a wonderful moment. And I think the reason she was interested in the project was she was really fascinated by the woman, Sarah Winchester.
I'm getting old, Dr. Price, but I can assure you my senses have not left me. I know the difference between illusion and reality.
I thought this was an extraordinary woman. The historical background to this particular film was really fascinating.
Sarah Winchester was an inventor. She was responsible for numerous patents that she actually developed, things like the annunciator that had various intercom systems for the entire house. Helen Mirren is a world-class actress, and when you ultimately have someone like Sarah Winchester that has so many different layers, I think Helen Mirren coming to play that role wanted to convey to the audience that Sarah was a very complex woman who was a designer and was very brilliant, and there was a reason for everything she did. But she was also, at this point, very, very troubled of what was being caused every single day with the Winchester rifle producing another one off the line.
She married William Wirt Winchester, who was part of the Winchester family and the Winchester Rifle Company. It's labeled the gun that won the West, and you know what that really means is it killed a whole lot of people.
In playing the role, I researched the truth of her. This is a woman with great feelings, with empathy, a sweetness about her, a kindness about her. All of her staff talked about that. At the same time, the fortune that she's spending on building this house does come from the Winchester rifle fortune, from an instrument of death and war. So, you know, there is a contradiction there.
They want me to build the spirits killed by the rifle.
In the film, the purpose of her building is to expiate the souls of the people who had been killed by the Winchester rifle. She feels the weight of their deaths upon her very, very heavily. She inherited this fortune, and I think she felt the responsibility of so many deaths.
I think this role was written for Helen. There's so many parallels between Helen Mirren and Sarah Winchester being strong female characters. And, you know, what I really loved about Helen is that she's got this strength, but she's also got this vulnerability when she's playing Sarah Winchester.
Helen Mirren played Cleopatra 3 times in Phaedra, you know, which, funnily enough, help you play parts like this where you're having a summon ghost, you know, react to wind and stuff like that. It's very primal, very Shakespearean in a basic kind of way. She makes an enigma real, but still keeps it an enigma. There's still a sense of mystery with Helen, because she's just got that, you know, that charismatic weight about herself as a person.
Let's just get straight to it, Doctor. You are here to assess my erratic behavior, are you not?
When we started writing this script, we were like, how do we approach this? How do we get inside the story? How do we enter the story? And then the idea was, if our biggest question is, was Sarah Winchester crazy? Well, then the obvious answer is, well, why don't we have a psychiatrist go in there and try to figure it out?
Jason Clarke's character, Eric Price, is brought out to the house under the pretense of assessing Mrs. Winchester's state of mind. However, Sarah Winchester has some ulterior motives.
I keep records of all the lives a Winchester has taken.
As you can clearly see, I'm still here, so perhaps you could do me the kindness of taking me off that shelf.
You were shot.
I was. She's having a problem. You know, she can't identify what a certain spirit or spirits are doing and what she's supposed to do or build or deal with them. And she takes a guess that maybe a man who has crossed over into the afterlife, albeit however short, you know, has some gift that she doesn't have.
You kept it and refurbished it.
I did.
Why?
Well, because it's a reminder of my past, of all that I've lost.
His crutch is that he lost his wife, that he tried to treat her when she had, you know, psychological issues and was wrong. And, you know, in his own mind failed and caused, you know, he'd say that he caused her to commit suicide.
There is so much pain and history and emotion in Jason Clarke's eyes. And his ability to reveal a character's story without saying anything is pretty remarkable. It's an intensity of how much baggage this character has without saying anything.
Eric Price is trying to overcome a tragedy. He has some personal demons he's trying to overcome, but he's addicted to laudanum.
He's a man that does like to distort his reality and sit in that for a while rather than see the clear, harsh light of day. As he starts exploring the house, in his own mind, am I seeing things? Am I, you know, are they there or are they not there?
He's fully aware that you can create your own reality, and that psychotherapy is a way to clear that up so you can still exist and stand in the fact that this is real and that's not real. But he does, through the course of the film, come to understand that everything is not as he once thought.
I always loved our garden room, sweetheart.
Really?
But you let it die.
Oh, no.
All these characters struggle through tragedies that they're still trying to deal with. That moment with Jason Clarke and his wife.
I did. I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Watching Jason emotionally committed to this man's story. To me, it's one of the things that really elevates this story beyond just the scares.
Don't do it. No!
Good. Reset.
Jason is obsessed with the detail of the character, the scene, and the world, and I really appreciate that.
As an actor, I was looking for other things to do your acting for you, you know, like your costume. It's things that just really make it easier, and then you can focus on telling other parts of the tale.
You work with a costume designer to make sure you're dressed and looking at it and feeling it and finding little things to really make the role your own physically.
The aim with all the costuming was to find a balance between historical accuracy and a relevance to a modern eye. Eric as a forward-thinking, imaginative soul. So in designing his clothes, his 1906 suit is very much of the time, and I wanted those colours to be able to stand out. So those blues act to not only bring out Jason's beautiful eyes, but also to help him sort of stand off that dark set that he's going to be creeping around on.
Dr. Price, welcome. Marion Merritt, Mrs. Winchester's niece.
The 1906 silhouette can be a little bit alienating to a modern audience. That period has enormous shoulders, unusually big sleeves, which just kept swamping Sarah Snook and kept drawing focus from her as an actress and a storyteller.
Action.
The silhouette of Marion's clothes, they're very sort of big in the shoulder. But in fact, what we've done is actually reduce what was real into something that the audience would actually be comfortable with.
Mrs. Winchester, it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Pleasure is due to the lawyers of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company.
Our costume is absolutely designed for us. and we knew what Sarah wore.
Sarah Winchester's morning dresses, most of the embellishment is all real Edwardian lace. The lace had two intentions: to give some softness to Sarah Winchester so that she actually had some light and shade within her own character, to give Sarah Winchester some vulnerability so that she just wasn't just a hard widow in a black dress. And then on a technical level, I needed a lot of texture in the actual fabrics so that the camera actually had something to shoot, so it just didn't get sunk into a black hole, but when it moves, you can actually see the texture of the dress.
The costumes I wore were not exact reproductions because we don't know the exact decoration or anything, but you know, they were as near as possible. Never fun to wear a corset all day long, but there you go.
The unique thing about the Winchester house is that it doesn't have a lot of rhyme and reason. Room is built on top of a room, they're not on the same level. It's never one consistent style or one consistent form of construction. There's many different shapes and sizes to the rooms.
It's quite a fantastical achievement. I mean, it was 600 rooms, I think, at one point before the earthquake hit. But it's what, you know, as we know so little about the woman, it's what gives you an idea of who she was.
There are no rules in this house. It's like it's an artist at work. But it is full of mystery. There are these two quotes from Shakespeare. Obviously her decision, and they are obscure quotes. It's not from Hamlet. It's Richard II, which no one ever sees. No one ever puts on Richard II. And Troilus and Cressida, which is very rarely performed. There are so many ways or understandings of why those two quotes are there. And I think that's the sort of wonder of this house and of Sarah, is it's a mystery. It's a mystery.
We visited the house many times and took hundreds of photos and saw rooms that no tourist had seen. Just really went through the house in extensive detail to make sure we weren't missing anything when we were making the movie. So we shot as much as we could at the actual house. The tricky thing about the house is it's beautiful, it's a popular tourist attraction, but we're placing our film in 1906. And 1906 San Jose looks very different to 2018 San Jose.
We've shot some of it here in the actual house, but more the exteriors. But the body of the drama we shot in Melbourne in studios where they beautifully reconstructed many of these rooms and staircases and corridors.
The sets are amazing. It's so exciting when you get to see sort of a set that's created as a puzzle. I think in the way that the Winchester house is in reality, when you see that on set in a soundstage and pieces that get to be moved together to create more hallways, and you go, is that piece of wall that we saw over there? I can't tell. That's incredible. It's like, that's a magic filmmaking moment.
We wanted to really give Sarah's aesthetic the lush and richness that we feel would have been her style of the time. So to be given the task of recreating that aesthetic and that level of opulence here has been a lot of fun, but also a massive challenge.
It is the grand ballroom, built almost entirely without nails. The walls and parquet floor are made of 6 separate hardwoods. And the silver chandelier was imported from Germany.
The fact that she was importing chandeliers from Germany and Europe, the timbers that she was using, the parquetry floors alone in the ballroom have 8 different timbers in them. The wallpapers she had is one of the largest collections of Lincruster wallpapers. The Witch's Cap is a real room from the house, and it's quite an amazing space. So the Witch's Cap was something that we wanted to include in the film, and we have recreated a version of it here on stage. Because it's in the attic space of the house, and reference images from the time show us that there was a chimney that led up that's outside of the building, which is no longer there. So we wanted to reinstate the fireplace and chimney into the Witch's Cap, which was obviously something that fell down in the 1906 earthquake. The switchback staircase is another set that we've replicated inch by inch from the real house. The switchback staircase is unique because it was one of the architectural elements of the house that were built specifically for Sarah Winchester.
Unusual.
Aunt Sarah suffers from arthritis. This makes climbing stairs manageable for her.
To get up one level of the building, she needed to do 7 flights of stairs, which basically fold in on themselves.
Henry.
Recreating that as a set here was quite a struggle, being that we also needed to get a film crew, 3 actors, cameras and everything into the set.
Action! Henry! Henry, stop!
So a lot of the pieces had to be able to be dismantled for camera access, but still hold its integrity.
Thank you, that was great. Thank you, Helen, that was awesome. Okay. Helen, you're done. Thank you very much.
Shooting a film like this is tough because the real tricky thing was to try and figure out what bit was going to be a set, what bit was going to be the real location, and what was going to be another location in Melbourne, Australia. So there's literally sequences in the film where Jason Clarke will climb out of a window that's a location in Australia, walk across a rooftop that's a double walking across the rooftop in San Jose, and then Jason climbs back into a window that's a soundstage set. And that's all within the space of like 20 seconds. And so figuring those things out, the kind of jigsaw puzzle of all of that was really tricky. And then to make it hopefully as seamless as possible, it's a tricky thing.
Yeah, and then he just walks back out of the room. Yeah. So this shot here that we're setting up for is about, in the cut, probably about 3 seconds long, if that. Yeah. Okay.
This is my first time shooting with 2 directors. It's interesting. It is really like speaking with one person, actually. And it comes out of 2 different mouths, but they fulfill different roles as well. I think you do need that deep psychological understanding of the other person, which obviously, in the case of twins, becomes much stronger. And it's fascinating seeing how that plays out.
Peter and I, it's weird, we get asked a lot about how we work as filmmakers and how the dual directing thing plays out. And I guess because, you know, we grew up together, we sort of fell in love with the same movies, we really have a shared vision. We plan so carefully, we storyboard everything, we sort of discuss everything in such detail that there's never any sort of confusion, I think, when we go onto set, as far as one voice saying one thing, the other voice saying something else.
The Spierigs are great world creators. Previous films have always been about creating worlds.
And action!
This film has a classic haunted house movie feel, something that could have been made in the 70s, a very tactile thing. We are huge fans of doing things practically. We love the idea of something being tactile and real. Particularly with ghosts and all of that, I'm not a big fan of the CGI apparition type of thing. I think it loses its suspense if it all feels like it's been done in post-production. So every scare, every jump, every ghost, we shot it all for real. Michael and I like to do this kind of misdirect with scares as well.
You're a phony.
If you look at the mirror scene, just that sleight of hand of, we're gonna get you to look at this thing, we're gonna get you to expect this. And I mean, that scare announces itself 3 minutes before it happens. Like, you know something's gonna happen. But they keep telling you it's gonna be at the chair. It's gonna be at the chair. And then they do it one more time and you think, well, now they're gonna do the chair. And they show the chair again, and it's empty.
Jesus!
And it's such a well-crafted moment.
I think maybe we need to get that first part right with actors.
We didn't want to do a blue screen movie. We didn't want to do things that seemed fake. The film is set in 1906, where there's certain events that happen in history that are very well known, and we wanted to make sure we were accurate to that event.
Okay, here we go, and action!
big San Francisco earthquake. The thing about those sort of sequences is that they have to be very carefully deconstructed. It's all to do with shots and the way you construct it in the editing room. The magic all happens in the camera, really.
All the earthquake, the shaken room and the destruction of that room, your imagination is actually enhanced by what you're working on because it feels tangible and it feels real and it feels truthful.
Peter and Michael took great delight in John's prolonged skeleton crushing. I had to do all that myself. There was no stuntman involved. There was no visual effects.
You watch these movies, you think, oh, they really work, don't they? They work because we just like to be scared, I guess, in some kind of way.
One of the things that really elevates this story beyond just the scares is watching these characters find their way to some kind of version for themselves of peace. There's a real emotional ride there.
I hope the audience experiences a very scary, terrifying movie. Our goal was to make a really creepy haunted house film. But at the same time, I think what makes this even more interesting is the fact that it is based on a true story and the fact that it's about something more than just scares. It's about a legacy of a rifle and what that did to the Winchester family,